Correct. Next one. Next time. Or no means not now.
Onto the next one.
A big one we have to know how to close. We really have to, that's probably a really one we need to know how to close.
Some people are relationship builders, they're not sales closers. They're great on all the chat and the talk. Yes, and they can show the care, do that, and then they just don't say, so, are we gonna, so what's the next week? Do we book this? Like that was probably the number one thing I had to teach people when I had a sale.
Okay, amazing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to room 1, which was the room that had Diane, Dimitri, Kirsten, Martina, Melissa, and Patrick in. Who's the spokesperson for that room? Could you come off, Mike? No spokesperson?
We actually forgot to allocate a spokesperson. We did have Margin has a great job of timekeeping. I'll just talk if that's okay with everybody else.
Amazing. So what were the things that you came up with, Kirsten?
Well, some of the list, I don't know how many there is on the list, but the top was a good listener.
Yep.
Also ability to ask good questions. So, and then sorry. Oh.
You're good.
Sorry about that. Another one was an ability to summarise and to also a leader of the conversation. So being able to kind of be an active participant, I guess, in a conversation. Storyteller, and a high EQ, being able to tap into things, but also understand people's problem that they're going to try and provide a solution to. We had authenticity, believe in what you're doing in your own value, and build trust and rapport quickly, and ability to find their client or their demographic or who they should be talking to.
Beautiful. So they know who their market is. Okay, incredible. I'm going to go to room 2 now, which was Bex, Jane, Janine, Luke, and Chair. Who wants to speak from that room? Or I could just call names if we didn't. Okay, Luke, amazing. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Great.
The previous speaker there, Kirst, has already said a few of ours, so authenticity, listening, open questions. And we also had empathy, confidence, and to demonstrate some sort of credibility.
Amazing. I love those. Thank you. Okay, down to room 3, which had Julie Garland, Mark Jones, Matthew, Sarah, Sue. Okay, who would love to speak with that one?
I got dobbed in, so...
Hi, Mark.
Yeah, hi, how's it going? Good to see you.
Good to see you sneak in.
No, that's all right. I can see Martin lurking in the back there too, so it's always fun to be among friends. A couple of things from me, as I ticked off. I won't say the ones that have already been said. Energy, which I think is really key, so the energy that you bring to the moment, being friendly, your ability to follow up, and there's a segue there to a motto that I live by, which is ABS. It's not a braking system, it's always be selling.
Yeah.
It's a mindset, you got to live it. And I've got an hour in my diary every morning, the hour of power. And I go through, my leads and where I'm at with things, and obviously do reach outs as well. Objection handling, this idea of being generous, how can I help this person as well?
Great.
And then being honest was another one.
Beautiful. And honesty, I love that. Okay, so over to room 4, which is Bianca, Danielle, Leona, Lisa, and Michael. Who's coming online for that one? And Leona, let's go.
Anyone else jump in if I've missed any? I think I've made a pretty good list. The first one was relentless discipline. This is in addition to everything else. Be really someone who's really system-led. Like they get systems. They like systems. They're open to systems. A lot of people can talk, but they don't like them. Really understanding the client's pain point. Really like getting into, you know, like almost to bed with them and just what would be that late night conversation that you'd have about your pains. We talked about that real ability to connect. Probably one of the biggest ones that we talked about, like, how to close. A lot of people don't ask for the close. They're great relationship builders, but they don't say, right, let's book this. Like, let's lock the date in. What's next? That kind of thing. That's probably one of the number ones that I've seen. The other one was how to take the feeling of rejection and turn it into an action. So rejection is just a feeling, and then how to actually reframe that so then it's like the next. And we also talked about that absolute bone deep DNA belief in what it is that you're selling. So I think the outcome is for us to sell us. That's kind of easy. We'd hope it'd be easy, right? Because we know, we believe in what the outcomes are that we're selling. But if we've got someone else selling for us, I think that's probably one of the number one things that we need to make sure that they get to feel that, because that blows your mind. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Great list. Room 5, Anne, Brian, Katrina, Laura, and Sandy. Who have we got coming online for that one? Sandy, hi.
Hi everyone. Look, fairly similar themes appearing for us that have been there for the other groups. We started with this unwavering belief that what we have has worth and has value, and so we bring that energy to conversations. Great salespeople are less focused on themselves and more focused on the person that they're engaging with and communicating with. So passionate about what's your challenge, what's that pain point, how we could help solve that pain point and what the future would look like. So future-focused solutions, and rather than I have a product to sell, they're attentive, they're interested in the person that they're engaging with. It's not a rushed process, but there is momentum and clear steps along the way to get to the sale. So each interaction is getting me not to the end game, but to the next step in the process. And then leading me through that rather than rushing me into it, and not leaving things up to the person who's being sold to, but taking initiative. That they have integrity and this unwavering self-belief, that not only in themselves but in their own value as well. They read the room. They know when not to sell. But again, there's that piece around that rejection handling. They kind of chase the nose, so they're looking for information to keep going through. They're connecting with heart. So if you've got 3 people saying the same thing, the person who's really connecting with you is someone who stand out rather than someone who's just trying to sell. And yeah, that curiosity and that listening piece as well.
Yeah, amazing. I love that list. I'm going to go now to room 6, and this is a huge list. You guys are all like top of the class. I'm just going to like shake my hands and be done with the session. Alec, Katrina, Carol, Dippy, and Vicky, who's speaking out of that room?
It's me, Jacqueline.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah, everybody has nearly said everything that we covered, but some of the things that we did enact and build that know, like, and trust.
Yeah.
A real deep belief in what you're selling and have passion and deep knowledge about what you're selling. As Leona said, knowing the pain point of the person that you're selling to and how can you take that pain point away, fix that for them. Being okay with the rejection, but using the rejection then to build reiterations, and then the follow-up. I think, I shared that that's one of the things that I'm really poor at is the follow-up, and I know you often say that's where the gold is, so we often forget about the follow-up.
Yeah, absolutely. Or we avoid it. Thanks so much, Katrina. Some good additions there. Room 7, have we got anything to add? That was Heather, Janine, Kenny, Nadia. Nadia was coming and going. We got anyone there's going to take that one?
I can jump in on this one. I think we had more about probably similar to what Mark was saying around the consistency. So knowing what you're doing, keeping on track, getting the things done. Otherwise, you end up in that kind of cycle of going down and going back up. Some of the other things was, again, that active listening, but with curiosity. So understanding really what they're coming from, not what your perception is of what they're doing. So there were a couple of things. And again, I think everything else has really been said.
Yeah, amazing. A couple of great things to add there, though. Consistency is key. Thanks, Janine. Now, Anna and Deborah, I don't think went into a room. I'm going to skip to room 9. If room 8 did have some things, that would be great. Room 9, which was Eleanor, Lisa, who wasn't able to go in, Suzanne, and Will. Have we got anything from you guys? Who's speaking on that behalf of that room? Anything to add?
I'm happy to. Not much to add. What a great list. I think that the one thing that I didn't hear was certainly understanding the target market, understanding their pain points, but also understanding what a good solution looks like for them to set that appetite. The other thing I think we could probably add to was the great system. Because, we talked about know, like, and trust, and what's the system? We were talking about the internet and how the internet allows us to provide no pressure information and an experience of us, and how do we work the system to make sure that we're taking people through that journey. And the other thing that was probably a big one of mine, and I think the others as well, was also being okay with no, turning it into a positive. That's great, and the positive that was explained to me not so long ago was that at least we know they're not our target market. So, and letting go of them with love. So,
absolutely.
I think other than that, everyone else is covered. I mean, so many fabulous points. So thank you.
Yeah, it's a great, really good list. I've been writing madly as we're talking. I'm going to go now to room 10 to wrap us out, which is Amanda. I know Martin probably could get in there. Michelle and Sue. Who's going to be talking? Sue, hi.
We've put them in the chat. The only ones that I don't think have been mentioned are being relationship driven rather than selling first, and allowing people to pay just for what they need rather than all the bells and whistles they may or may not need.
Oh, you and I could talk for hours on that one.
and an oldie but a goodie, selling the benefits, not the features.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. 100%. I really love all of these. Like, would you agree? This has been an incredible list. Not all corporate sales teams actually get a list this comprehensive. And what I do love about this group, which makes you all a group of superstars, is we had follow-up and close. It's amazing how many rooms we do this exercise in, and people forget about the follow-up and people forget about the close. We can actually have a room of 100 and still not have anyone talk about the close. The close is really important, no matter how much you like it. I want to also just talk about being relationship driven and making sure we bring our passion and energy. So passion and energy must match them plus a level. If we come in with too much passion and energy, we risk alienating them, right? So we've actually got to meet them where they are, upper level, and be really present rather than just bringing our passion in. And just want to pick up on one of the comments there about, I think it was Leona was talking about us selling us and the belief that comes with that. Us selling us for a lot of people is also the biggest block to sales. And what I want you to think about is I don't actually care what you're selling from this perspective, whether you're a speaker, a trainer, an educator, a coach, a consultant, advisor, or something in between where you feel like you're selling you're not. You are selling your services, right? I want you to actually think about the fact that, yes, the brand may be you, but you're selling a service, you're selling a product, right? So even when it comes to improvement, you don't, like, a lot of us do improve ourselves because we have to work on ourselves to get really good at sales and being present and all the things that we do. But you go to improve a product or a service, right? So if you're a speaker, you're improving your keynote or your customer journey. If you're a coach, you're improving your coaching skills to get that product stronger. Like all of those sorts of things. It's the same thing. We're not selling us. We're still selling a product and a service, even if it is our name over the top of it. Our name is the brand that overarches the products and services that we sell, right? And it's a really key distinction because this is how we have to think about it when we're selling ourselves. When we are IP or expert-led, it's a really key distinction. Now, what I loved, what I heard in all of that feedback was that actually we're all thinking very much the same way. You are going to hear a lot of the language that you just heard from me in these next few sessions, in these next few moments that we've got together. Because, as I said, top of the class, it must be the people we attract into our world right now. That it's really, really incredible to hear some of the language already. What I want to run you through is some of our key philosophies and some of the key actions that you can use to actually improve this straight away. Because a lot of us actually know what we should be doing when it comes to sales, but not all of us are great at seeing that through. And a lot of the time it's because we simply don't know. So I'm going to get Rox just to spotlight me again. Thanks, Rox. And I'm just going to flick cameras over. So when it comes to being paid, which is what sales is all about, one of the things I want you to think about is this, is that no matter who you are, it's not the market, it's you. Now, there's only about 3%, if that, 3 to 5% of markets that are actually dead. That can be construction when the GFC hit, for example, or GST hit. We have worked with people whose businesses died overnight because of a change in legislation. That's a dead market, right? I used to work in mining services. Commodity prices go down, mining services stop. In fact, whole towns get shut up and boarded up, right? That's a dead market. Coming from regional Queensland, I was in a region where there were 4 LNG plants being built at one time. That market was always going to die. It was always going to fall off a cliff. Now, some people chose to ignore that, but from the day those projects started, we knew it had a 4.5-year shelf life before that market would be dead. And getting the same market in Australia was not going to be possible. You're going to have to go overseas. So for some of us, right, absolutely, there's a dead market. It's 3 to 5% of us. For the rest of us mere models, it's actually us, right? And it comes down to, at one stage, for a number of years, I owned a real estate. I was a partner in a real estate agency. And our thing was position, position, position. And people think that's location, 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 and it's not. In real estate terms with our business, when we were selling a property, it came down to property, price, and sales message. So the position was the position of the property, the position of the price, and the position of the message. And it's the same for us, right? If all those 3 things weren't working, or if it wasn't selling fast enough, we knew that one of those 3 things were wrong, and the market was telling us that it was wrong. So the market will tell you if something is wrong, but the market, you can't blame the market for you not getting results, right? So the beauty, though, when we say that it's not the market, it's you, is it means that you can change it and you can control where you go next with it. And that's what I do love with it, because when we say it's the market, we actually surrender control and we give up. We give up agency, right? So we actually need to go into the market, and we need to stop using the excuse that it's the market. At the moment, everywhere you look will tell you that the market is really tough, right? But some people are flourishing, and some people are flourishing even in the markets we're told are really tough. So 97% of the time, it won't be the market, it will be something in your mix. Now, this also is what's happening. As experts, speakers, thought leaders, as IP expert-led entrepreneurs, all that sort of stuff, is we are quite often doing these things and burning ourselves out. So we're burning it out in content production. We have been convinced that ascension models are the only way to go. It's run by $7, $9, $37, $100 and in. We are being told that we must package our services, which is, I think it was Sue at the end there, and I said I could talk to you about this all day. You can know what your packages are, but don't just sell your packages. It's really, really important that you don't. We're told we have to master the single full close, right? We don't. I'm going to talk to you about that in a minute. We're buying into egometrics. So thinking visibility equals sales, and it doesn't. Egometrics is followers, interactions, engagements, comments, right? I can tell you right now that a number of you have come through into our world through our podcast. I can tell you every day I get a message from someone different telling me that they love our podcast. I can also tell you that a lot of people will be on a phone call with me and say, oh, look, by the way, loving your podcast. None of them are on my reviews. None of them are on my engagements. None of them are on my subscription list, right? We're buying into the wrong metrics, and we're pursuing thought leadership. Now, I am a great lover of true, deep thought leadership, absolute lover of it. But taking your thought bubbles and producing them in a book and then peddling it to the market is not thought leadership. It's when we do thought leadership as a market entry, as a marketing strategy, rather than a deep work, that it's a problem, right? So I'm not saying all thought leadership, I'm saying when it's done as just a market strategy, that's when it's a problem. So this is what we can do that helps us with this. We can produce bespoke research and insights. find a piece of research or insights that you can develop and run yourself that you can own and speak to, or produce something that can be repurposed, like our podcast. Eliminate low-cost options, and what I mean by this is stop breaking your back to sell a $47 product. We were talking to someone on the weekend who's got a massive coaching business, got rid of all high-end to go for a very low-end subscription model, and is struggling, right? So if your low-end products are really strategic, absolutely go for it. But don't do it as a general rule, right? Become a master diagnostician. So this is actually, instead of packaging our services, know how to diagnose what it is they want and adapt to your services. I worked with someone last year and actually we couldn't continue working together. We did about 3 months together. She was a HR consultant. She had 3 clear packages of services she'd been convinced that she should package. And you should absolutely have packages available, but also take the time to diagnose what the client actually wants. And what was happening was the worst sales call. I reviewed some of her sales team calls, and it was the worst sales calls I've ever been on, right? Because they literally had a script and it got to a point where they just rolled out their 3 packages and there was no option but to take up one of those packages, and no curiosity from the salesperson to discover if the packages were even appropriate. It was literally like, here's our packages, right? You need to become a master diagnostician. Instead of mastering a single call close, master the single step sell, which is where we're going next. Instead of buying into egometrics, focus on commercials and know your numbers. And instead of pursuing thought leadership, become famous in your own lunchbox. Become famous in a sector, a vertical, a location, a market. Find a place where they love and adore you that you can create your home base to springboard from. So many people try to leapfrog, right? Or they're zipping across lanes. I talked about the 8-lane freeway yesterday. Like, stay in a lane. Don't be the mad idiot that everyone's trying to avoid as they zip across the lanes. So really, really important that we actually understand all of that. So what I want to do next is actually move into some myth busting. The first thing is that we hear a lot, sales is hard. No, sales is not hard, right? Sales is resisted, sales is avoided, but sales itself is not hard. When you understand that it's a formula, a science, and then an art on top of it. But just understand the formula can get you a long way. Scripting is the answer. No, it's not. If you ever want to have fun, and you're still actually taking calls that are telemarketers and you want to have some fun, someone's ringing you to sell a gym membership or a wine club membership, play with their script. Give them a question back and watch them squirm because they can't go any further. Really interesting, several years ago I did national sales training for Tattersalls, for their lottery franchises. I did national training team. I'd signed the contract 2 rounds over 6 months, first round, second round, 6 months later, to improve their franchise sales and dramatically improve. And I was already in contract, and they said to me, oh, by the way, we want to know what scripts you're going to lead us with. And I was like, I don't do scripts. And they're like, well, we need them, and that's what we do. And I'm like, well, it's not working for you, and the other trainers you've had gave you scripts and it's still not working for you, so let's do this. Why don't I do the first round, and then if you don't like what I deliver, I'll refund the money. Right? Now, it worked, and I'll talk more about those results, but we did quadruple their conversion rate, right, of their franchise sales in a highly complicated environment. So we didn't have scripts, and I'll talk to you soon about what we actually did for them. And then ghosting makes it hard to close. I hear this all the time. I get ghosted, I can't close, and it's like, ghosting doesn't make it hard to close, you make it hard to close, right? I'm going to unpack a little bit more about this. But the thing is that ghosting is actually an indicator that you haven't got all the information or you didn't build rapport. Because even if they're going to say no, they will tell you so if you build rapport, right? And you offer the opportunity. But we're going to talk to you about some of the tips and things that we use to make sure that we can get through ghosting. Because so often I sit down with someone, they're like, we've got this big pipeline, like there's $280,000 in the pipeline. And it's like, no, there's not. There's like $17,000 in the pipeline because these things have been dead for 3 months. You just don't want to take them out because you're scared that it'll show there's nothing coming, right? Ghosting is in your control, except for, of course, there's always going to be wankers, right? You're always going to have a certain element of people that are just going to do the wrong thing, right? But it's not something that's out of your control, and ghosting doesn't make it hard to close. What I want you to understand about the Tattersalls thing that I just talked to you about is this. I didn't come from big corporate. I came from small business, and I came from some really good stuff, but I didn't come from big corporate. But I was able to teach how to improve their sales at a billion-dollar company. And the reason being is because it's the same. Whether you are a solo operator or a massive corporate, they're just more sophistication in how they generate their leads. But a great sales process is the same, no matter who you are and where you are. But our key is the single-step sale. And this is something that I am really passionate about. When it comes to single-step sale, the mistake that we made is this. We sell all the things, right? And we race to the end. So that's HR consultancy sales call that I just spoke about. That's what they were doing. We're selling all the things and we're racing to the end because we know we're the expert. We make assumptions when we do this, right? When we race to the end, we make assumptions that we absolutely know why they need our thing. And we haven't been curious. We mentioned curiosity. We actually assume that they have the ability to make the choice of what they should be buying from us. And they can't, right? 9 times out of 10, they're coming to you because they need help with their problem, and then you're saying A, B, C, or D, which one do you want? Take a pick, right? We're selling all the things. When we sell all the things, and I think of it, and I said it yesterday, like a 1990s consulting proposal, we do this and this and this, and we can add some steak knives. When we sell all the things, we also block the buying decision. We make it complicated. And this is why people get ghosted, because we make it complicated. They don't want to tell us that this is too hard for them to process, and they go quiet, right? So the antidote to that is this: incremental commitment, right? So this is the same as when we talked about speaking yesterday. We want to get small yeses all the way through. We want to ask questions that actually help us direct where we take them next. We want to ask questions so that we actually get a pathway that becomes clear. And it can be as simple as, would you be okay if I shared with you what we're noticing with our other clients who are dealing with the same kind of issue? Right? It can be as simple as, does this sound like something that you'd be interested in? Now, when we're working with clients in our programs and my private clients, we've got a range of about 12 to 14 of those statements that we use, and it's really, really important. What we want to do here is understand what the next step is, and what is the question we need to ask them to get them to agree to go to that single next step, which is where single step thing is going. Now, what dictates what that is you need to know what is the next piece of information that you need. Do you need to know something from them? Do you need permission to share something with them? This sort of thing. The philosophy that underpins this is that simple, fast, small decisions all the way through actually prevent the buyer having to do heavy lifting at the end. So simple, fast, small decisions all the way through prevent the heavy lifting of a big decision and that feeling like it's too hard to do. Okay? So that's the principles of single-step sale. Now, the next thing is we fall into the clever trap. Now, we talk about the clever trap with speaking. It also applies to sales. This is where we want to sell all the things comes into being. So I'm going to run you very briefly through a quadrant that we should all be using when it comes to what we should be selling. Because here's the thing. They're coming to you as an expert. I'm going to talk to you more about this before we wrap. They're coming to you as an expert. You shouldn't actually be saying, it could be this, and it could be this, and it could be that, and it could be this. But then how do you know what the single point of sale should be? So within the single step sale, we need to know what our single point of sale is. Well, the first one is this. What are people already paying you for? Not do you want to get paid for. What are people already paying you for? Because even if you want to change gears, you need to evolve it from something you know that they're already paying for. Next thing is this. Are you selling to the right people? Have you got the right people coming into your business? I was listening back to a podcast replay yesterday, and I started laughing because I remember a few years ago this business was really frustrating me. And I was talking about it with my mother, who is also an entrepreneur and still in business. And she actually said to me, she said, honey, I think there's a problem in that you don't actually like any of your clients. And I was like, oh my goodness, you were so right. So my sales process was so open, and I was so just wanting to drive revenue, I was letting a lot of the wrong people and not the right people. So where do the right people show up? For what product and what service are the right people showing up? And where is it easy for them to buy you? Okay. And then the next thing is, do you know what your single point of entry is? Right, your single point of inquiry. So this is the thing that most people ask you about or ask you questions about. Okay, so to do this, what we've got to do is we've got to actually have a sales process. We actually have to have some data around this. And the other thing is that we actually need to know, and we need to focus in on that single point of entry. So this is about the arrowhead we were talking about yesterday with the speaking. And this is really interesting because a few years ago, I wanted to actually shift our focus from being speaker trainers, because we do a lot of things behind the scenes. And if any of you are in our world, you know that there's a lot of different things that we sell and do. And I wanted to get rid of speaker training as our front, right? I wanted it to be part of the thing, but I didn't want it to be the lead. But when we did an analysis, we found that more than 80% of the inquiries that came our way were because they wanted to know how to speak better. So to get rid of that would have actually shut down this part of our funnel, most of our funnel. So what we then want is a sales project, right? Which a sales process which allows us to direct the traffic, not package, not predetermined, but direct the traffic. So when we book a sales call with someone, we're actually interested in what's going to suit them. Now this bit over here I also want to talk about. Make it easy to buy you, and where are you easiest to buy? Okay, Eleanor, great question. I'd love to do that at the end if you've got time to stay on. And what I mean by this is I've got people who want to get the 10K speaking gig who haven't got a 3K gig yet. So you're selling above where you've got credibility. When it comes to consultancy and project and coaching, people are trying to sell in the 100K program, the 120K project. What is it that you can sell up front for 2,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 for people to come into your system a lot easier, or 500, right? So in consulting services, I used to end up with projects that were between $120,000 and $180,000. But the first point of sale was a $5,000 order or a $5,000 project of some description for them to actually understand that we could deliver. So some of us are trying to sell a too high a point of entry. The surprising secret to the single step sell, and this is why I love it, is because it actually makes everything a lot faster, right? So it actually ramps everything up. We actually go slower, feels like going slower, but it actually means we go faster. And that's the surprising secret. The second thing is, after single step selling, is we want you to ditch the script. So the mistake that we make is we tell too much, especially in a script, and we don't ask enough. I don't think anyone will be able to read this, so hopefully you can hear me. So we tell too much and we don't ask enough. Everybody that I've had to review sales calls who don't have great sales outcomes, that's exactly what they're doing. They're telling what they do, how they do it, what their solutions are, they're not asking enough. The antidote to that is you need to be insatiably curious, right? Some of my biggest projects, and we don't have time to go into them today, so my biggest projects and biggest wins were from asking questions and not having a predetermined outcome. So even if you know that you've got a predetermined outcome, you still have to go through the process. And then the philosophy underpinning this is you need to become a ninja question asker and great at story placement. Now, when I talked about Tattersalls before, all I did was I taught them how to ask questions and then shut up, right, and listen for the answer. And then I also taught them how to answer questions through stories. And one of the things they actually did was they built a corporate story library. Now, both of those things allow you to control the conversation and to build trust and connection really quickly, right? Credibility and logic doesn't do that. So when it comes to ditch the script, we use lots of questions, and we have diagnostic questions. We have 60 that we use as a general guide. And when I used to actually run sales teams, I didn't want my consultants to walk in and ask all the questions. But what we did was we ran over the questions before we walked into a meeting just to get our mind primed. And the categories of questions that we ask questions to connect, we ask questions to clarify, we ask questions to identify, we ask questions to crystallize, we ask questions to compel, we ask questions to close, We ask questions to re-engage. So when there's actually objections, so when you get an objection, your first response should be a question, and it's not, "Are you stupid?" Okay, and we use questions. We have some other questions that we are able to use anywhere. Now, as you can see, there's a lot of questions that we can use, and what we do is we use questions to direct conversation, and questions to get microagreements, and questions to regain control. So there's a whole range of things that go in behind that, but if you're not great at asking questions, that's the number one skill I can give you, right? Give the questions, right? Go and learn how to and ask amazing questions. And it will also uncover opportunities that you would never see coming. One of our biggest engagements and projects I'm proudest of in my entire career came out of asking questions and shutting up and listening to the answers and getting curious and going down rabbit holes and using these questions to actually uncover something that they thought that we couldn't find a solution for, right? So these questions are super important. Yes, in diagnostics, but also going through. Brian will send out a list of questions with the replay. Roxanne, can you please make a note about that? Okay. So really, really important to use questions all the way through to connect, to clarify, to identify, to crystallize, to compel, to close, to re-engage, and ones that you can use anywhere. So, when we're actually opening, and I'll give you this one, when we're opening a conversation, if you are new to my world, and there's a couple of calls that are probably going to hear it very soon, if you're new to my world, I'll actually say to you, so, how did you bump into my world? And that's what got your attention. What's going on in your life at the moment that got your attention? Super curious, right? So everything should be a question, and you actually have more control of the conversation when you know how to ask questions than when you're just walking people through something. So then we want to ditch the script, and we talked about this earlier. We actually need to have a flow to our sales conversations. Now, whilst I would love to take you all the way through this, I'm just going to give you the overview. So we have an open, and your open should be very conversational, and it's conversational but question based. Then we have a discovery phase where we're asking questions to identify what it is that's really going on in their world. Then we will crystallize the problems and the potential solution. Then we deepen with questions, then we clarify, then we do what I call exemplify. So this is what I said earlier. Would you be okay if I share with you what we see going on? Would it be okay if I walked with you what we've actually done previously for somebody else in the same scenario? That's when you exemplify. You get permission to actually walk them through something. And then you close and close. So you should always have two closes. You should have a soft close first up. And soft close first up is to actually get the objections. And then you use questions to handle the objections and permission to share stories. You don't handle objections with logic. You handle objections with questions and stories and reminding them of what they've given you earlier. And then you have a hard close, right? We talk about when we speak. Yesterday we said we want to move them from where they are now to where we want them to be, to where they never expected to be. Sales is the same, right? And at the end, where they never expected to be, is to be somewhere that they love. Now, this whole bit in here, from crystallize through to clarify. So these three here, this is actually where we are doing what I call agitating the gap. And most of us don't spend enough time here. So where are they now? Where do they want to be? And what's the gap that you are able to put yourself into the middle of, right? That's the flow of a great sales conversation. And if we skip those bits, we end up in trouble. Now, the beauty of ditching the script and getting really curious is actually the best side effect is that you get to stop working with idiots. So the biggest feedback bits from Tattersalls was actually now they could see a feedback. Now they can see a feedback. I just saw someone putting feedback into the thing. Is now they can see the idiots at 100 paces in their own words. We can now see the idiots at 100 paces and get rid of them before they get too far into the process. So that's the bit that I love. Okay. In the limited time we've got left together, I'm just going to do this last section. Friction-free closing. Most people avoid closing because it feels confronting and it feels like a personal rejection, right? Every close is just an opportunity to find out whether or not you're going to work together. It's not personal, and 9 times out of 10 when people say no, it's a not now, right? But we hear no and we say not you, and we take it personally. So let's have a look at this and how we actually approach it here. So the first mistake that we generally make from friction-free clothing is this. We're offering too many things, which we've spoken about before, right? So there's too many things on the table. A lot of people believe they have to give 3 solutions to something, and you can, but it actually makes it really difficult. I give the 3 variations in how people can choose to invest and buy. Right? This is the solution. You can pay in 3 different ways, especially if I'm a consultant. So the antidote for this is to set up for a very simple yes or no, which we've already spoken about, but it also means one thing, one solution. And the philosophy behind this is making sure that you take control of the process. And that's going to become a lot clearer in just a moment. Now, for those people who feel like they get ghosted or they can't close easily, and most people are getting ghosted, we mentioned earlier, is actually because they have no control of the process. So they send the proposal off, it's like, oh my goodness, I hope they get back to me. And then they'll call me in a couple of weeks and they'll say, hey, when should I email them? Has it been long enough? Should I give them a call? A lot of rubbish. Send the proposal off and say, I'll give you a call in the next 72 hours, right? Or I'll call you in the next 7 days. Give yourself permission to follow up. There's some really simple strategies that we use with everyone for the follow-up, right? So then, you need a powerful proposal. You need a proposal. So many people wonder why they're not selling. They're trying to sell high-ticket items with a Word document or throwing a response into an email, right? You can't get people to invest in you if you don't look like you are trustworthy. It's not a Word doc. It's not an email response. And needs to be done properly. I took on a client late last year and I reviewed her proposals. And her first proposal she sent me, which she said was the one that she used all the time and it was most successful one, was 17 pages, which is too long. And the first 9 pages talked about her and why she loves doing what she's doing, right? So then I actually said, okay, so it's your most successful proposal. What's your conversion rate? She said, oh, it's 11%. So then I knew we had a problem. Right? And many people do, right? So this is what we do to help with the proposals. Number 1, we template. So I have a client who has 3 different solutions. She has 3 different templates because she's offering one solution. We'll talk about that in just a moment. So you need to have a scannable plan, right? So you need to actually very easily pull out a visual of what the plan looks like. What's your robust application that you apply? What are the timelines? What are the milestones? Make it visual. We had one client at one stage had a really complex timeline over 6 months. So what we did with hers was we actually created a visual like this and literally pie graphed it so she could actually block out. We won't even have any contact here, for example, right? So she visualized all of the stages. If you want to actually make sure that you've got time to consult, you need to build that into your timelines. And the other thing that we also need to do is actually bake in a debrief, and that comes over to here, and I'll touch on that in a minute. But our plan needs to be scannable. Our audience needs to understand what we're offering as a solution quickly and easily, right? Then once they know that, then you can go into some more detail, but make the plans scannable, visually scannable. A lot of people that do heavy text Word documents and you can't, it's like reading a university lecture note, right? Your buyers are not going to buy when that happens. You're going to make it visually scannable and easy to understand what it is that you're offering. This one, the ultimate solution. You are the expert. The minute I go to you as an expert and you come back to me with these are our 3 options, I'm out. I want to know if you've had a call with me that you understand what it is that I need, including me telling you that I'm not what you need. You are the expert, right? So this is the Rolls-Royce solution. This is the ultimate. And how we balance this out is we have a paragraph that we use. We see this proposal as simply the start of a conversation. We understand that there will be various things that impact your decision, such as time and money and resources. We'd love to invite you to peruse this entire document, making notes of where your questions sit, and we'll be in touch within 72 hours to talk about this further. Right? But you don't water down the proposal. You give one solution. And then the forgotten promise. This is the forgotten promise. What people want to know is that we've got your back. It doesn't matter, and you can do all the social proof in the world, but there's one paragraph I'm going to give you that makes all the difference, right? We know that when you engage on a project like this, that all sorts of things can go wrong. And our promise to you is, if something starts to go wrong from your end, we will communicate it as soon as humanly possible, and we will also communicate the solution. And we want you to know that if the opposite happens, that something goes wrong at your end, then you can reach out to us to start the conversation about how to deal with it. And if it's within my power to help you find a solution, then I will do so. That one paragraph in a proposal makes a lot of difference. People want to know that they've got your back, especially if anyone's a consultant. That's the one where people are actually really wanting to know that you've got his back. So that's those three things. Then we want the controlled close, right? I'm going to go straight to this. The controlled close, in my view, comes from growing up. And we've spoken about this a few times, but I'm just reinforcing. I grew up in a small country town, 1,100 people in the whole Shire. In the town, 2,100 people in the whole Shire. We didn't have phones. We actually had a phone that was available for 3 hours a day, and that was if the woman running the phone exchange didn't get drunk on sherry by 11 a.m. So we quite often had no communication. But we were a regional farming community. So every time we came together for sport, community, social, or work, before we left, we had identified the next time we were going to catch up, the next time we're going to meet, the next time we're going to do something. Apply that to your sales. I will be in touch in 3 days. I will send a proposal to you in 24 hours. I will give you a call. Apply the childhood proposal. Unconscious rhythm is the next one. And this was one actually I got from my mother when I took over her recruitment business. And the unconscious rhythm was this. If you are doing a follow-up call, and who knows you don't close a deal by email, an email just confirms a conversation. If we were doing a follow-up call and we rang and we got voicemail, we would ring it every 24 hours until they picked up the phone at the same time. Now, I used to be very anal about this. My consultants used to have to know. So if they rang at 12:47 on Tuesday, they had to ring at 12:47 on Wednesday, and 12:47 on Thursday. Now, you don't need to be that specific. But the whole idea is by the third time you're calling, the person you're calling unconsciously knows it's you because you don't leave a voicemail every time and then send a text message these days. They will know that you're not going to give up. Right? But the counterbalance to that is this one. Let them go with love. Right? So when you get to 4 or 5, say, hey, it's Jacqueline here. I'm just calling to follow up. Obviously, this is the priorities. I totally understand how things shift and change. Look, you've got all our information. I'm going to leave you with it. And when you're ready to circle back, I'd be happy to have the conversation when you're ready to do that. Now, the reason why we do this is we have to close it out and get it off our list, number one, if it's actually not going anywhere. But number two, sometimes things happen. Now, when you do that, if they're actually ready to roll, they'll actually ring you because it's almost like you're forcing a no, and they'll say, no, hang on a minute, we want to go. Or when it comes back to being a priority, because you actually closed out that loop, they have no hesitation picking the phone up again to talk to you. But if you don't let them go with love, it's awkward. It's like the breakup by text. You don't ever want to run into them again, right? Unless you're going to punch them in the face, right? That's not the result you want with your potential clients. Okay, so let them go with love and make it, we talked earlier about ritual and routine, make it ritualized and make it a routine. Really, really important. I'm going to take a break for 3 seconds. We're going to actually run through just a couple of questions that we had around the Messy Experts Rhythm. For those who went on yesterday, there is a brochure that Roxanne will put the link in for. This is what we're doing at the moment. And then I'm going to come back to this and some great couple of questions in the chat. Then we're going to come back to what have you loved and what are you taking away and the questions. And I'm also going to tell you what Laurie did from stage to change her revenue game from stage. So, just for one moment. Messy Experts, this is the rhythm. Now, it is in the brochure, so I'm not going to read it out to you, but there are 4 in-person events. Day 1 is your masterclass. Day 2 is live implementation. This is not a coaching program. This is actually get shit done. Within 21 days of the master of each of those programs, those workshops, the person who runs the masterclass, so Simon Bowen, Ian Stevens, whoever it might be, they will also run a 90-minute session within 21 days. So you can come back with all of your questions. So masterclass, implementation, go back to the real world. Oh my goodness, forgot what that was. You've got a chance to put the questions back and clarify. Then this is what a quarter looks like. So again, I'm not going to go through it in great details in the brochures. this is what the rhythm looks like each quarter to get that moving. And then this is year round. A few people ask us, well, what happens in between the live events? So we have strategy clinics, we have asset and office sprints. We're actually going to work on that. Peer accountability pods, some key expert masterclasses coming in, and all the support that normally comes with a program at this level. And for all of you, this is what I got Laurie to do because I know we're running late, so we're going to do this, and then we're going to do around the room questions. And so we'll go to around the room in a moment, which is what have you loved, what surprised you, what's your takeaway? But this is what I got Laurie to do. Now, Laurie is the person yesterday I spoke about in the US who went from speaking in Trade Hall and filling her academy to speaking main stage and not being able to sell. And not only did she still fill most of her places in her academy, what also happened for her was she picked up a $200,000 contract with L'Oreal, sorry, $2 million contract with L'Oreal to deliver training to their salons across the country. Now, I spoke yesterday, part of that was that she didn't pitch her $500 program from stage, but what happened was she used a technique that we call the golden minute. So coming off stage at the end, when everyone comes up to you to talk to you, and we'd coached her through how to do this, instead of saying, when someone says, I loved Sandy, I loved what you were saying, instead of saying, thank you, that's amazing, so long as, like, you know, it makes a difference, and if I can just help one person, we do this. We say, thank you so much. Was there anything specific that got your attention? And this guy responded, and they got into a conversation because you also don't want someone to hog it. And after about 3 minutes, she actually said to him, are you staying around for the rest of the day? And he's like, yeah. And she's like, would you mind if I just talk to these other people? Can we catch up for a coffee at 1:30 out by the food hall? And he was like, absolutely. She said, can I have your card so I can call you? He handed his card over. He was head of seller development for L'Oreal Northern America. She went and had the coffee, and she picked up the contract. If she pitched her $500 program, you would never have thought of her for that work. And if she said, that's amazing, so long as you get something out of it, she had no idea who this man was. It would have been lost, right? So the golden minute is actually where some sales are made and lost if you are speaking at the front of a room. Do not just be grateful and show appreciation for how much they love you, right? I want you to actually say, thank you so much. I'd love to know, is there anything in particular that got your attention? And then take the conversation from there because it's a game changer. Okay, amazing. Now, I'm just going to leave up with actually episodes, for those of you on the podcast, episodes 46, 47, 48, and 50 specifically deal with sales. That's the additional free resources we were talking about, Speaker Driven Business, the podcast. I'm going to, Roxanne, if you can drop me back off Spotlight, that would be amazing. And we're going to close out with a little bit of around the room with what have you loved, what has surprised you, what are you taking away? And Sandy, help, and I'm going to go first because you just seem to be front and center of my view right now. And then we'll get to questions.
Gosh, put me on the spotlight. What have I loved? To be honest, I really love the rhythm of this session and the value sort of today. Thank you. It's got me thinking differently. What I've loved, I guess, is a lot of things I've loved. It just makes it seem easier, doable. I don't know whether easy is the right word, but it's
doable.
Yeah, doable. It's taken the ick out of it.
Yeah.
And I've done a lot of this stuff as well, but sometimes just at the right time, it's landed. It seems very sequential, very. This is something that's easy to lean into.
Yeah.
What's something that surprised me? Oh, look, I'm always surprised that no matter how successful people are, we always get a little bit of the ick around sales. And so being able to come back and touching base on those principles and different ways actually can take us and create that transformatively rather than
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm going to duck down to Mark Jones.
I had a feeling you were going to ask me. I want to probably reflect the one thing for me. I've been reflecting on somebody who got away, and I'm going to let him go with love. I didn't send the let him go. Actually, I kind of did, but maybe not with enough love. And then the other thing as part of that was removing the friction from closing all the way through. I just like that idea of lots of little yeses so that it's not a big lift at the end. And then maybe something I'd love to hear another time as well, which is a lot of this is outbound versus inbound. I think I'm now ruminating on, how do you get to that level where you're just dealing with inbound, which is kind of like the story you told at the end, right? So somebody's there, and then how you foster those. Because I can tell you from experience, that's a lot easier.
It is a lot easier. One of the things that I didn't actually cover off today, though, is inbound and warm referrals sometimes actually make us lazy, and we don't follow the full process, and we assume and we can lose them faster. So it's one of the things, it's one of those fine lines. Like, inbound is great, but we can kind of often skip parts of the process and not diagnose properly and not that sort of stuff. So, but it's one of those things that's 50-50. But yeah, I'd love to have more conversation around that. We might have some time for that tomorrow if you're back tomorrow. Amazing, because that's about scanning. Melissa Prentice, over to you.
Yeah, oh, look, Sandy, I think, said it all. It's like we shared a brain. I think the one takeaway for me is that I'm actually on the right path, so thank you very much for that.
Awesome.
And really echoes Sandy's words there about it's the ick. It's a bit icky for me. And Mark, you just hit the nail on the head. I am a bit lazy. I do rely on very much my network and those warm sales, etc. So I have to think about more and go a bit harder. So thanks very much for that. Really enjoyed it.
Amazing. Thanks so much. I'm going to go up to Brian Shepard, and then we're going to go to Michelle Sheetal. You're on mute, Brian.
I hit unmute, but it didn't unmute. I think that I really love that you're not, you're selling, you're not selling yourself, you're selling a service. I think that was a good little, a good little thing that I loved. And boy, I mean, there's just so much to learn. When I do these with you in the past, and there's just so much that goes into this, and it really gives me a sense of awe about the mountain that I have to climb.
Yeah, and it's a climbable mountain, though. That's the thing. Michelle.
Thanks, Jack. At the risk of repeating Melissa and Sandy, all of that applies. But what I did love was the permission to ditch the ascension model and the too many offers. I think, I scratch my head and try and create offers, and I think, it never works. So I love that permission. I do get all my clients to do a story library, and need to work on mine. So
love that. I love the honesty.
But I do use stories to deal with questions. So that was a surprise. I got all the answers to tick here. That's good. And I'm going back to my proposals and my follow-up emails, because I do kind of leave it to them, and I'm not specific enough with following up. And I really loved that idea of you putting in the email, please read it, note any questions, anything you'd like clarification from, and I will call you to talk those through. I thought that was a nice gem. I loved it. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. And that actually came up because one of the things I didn't talk about was I have no sales profile. So when I went and sold radio sales, which is one of the jobs I talked about earlier, and I pulled off the biggest contract that they'd seen to date, it was 140k spent for radio advertising in 1998. So it was huge, right? 1999. And we were sitting, it was 1999, so we're sitting in a basement car park on Uptown milk crates, drinking rum and coke, smoking cigarettes, celebrating this thing. The sales manager had a cigar, and he's like looking at me, like, literally, I'm going to use his words, he's literally like smiling and laughing and like with his guy going, shouldn't have fucking hired you, and laughing about the deal because he was told not to hire me, but he knew that there was something in it to hire. And so what I had to do with both of those first two sales jobs, I had to work out a way, because I hated the close, and and I'm introverted. So my thing of reaching out to people is the worst thing. And I discovered that if I did that, it took away the thing for me, right? Because I told them I was going to do it, so now it was an obligation in integrity that I had to follow up. But also by saying to them, I'm inviting, I'd love you to peruse it, note any questions that you have. They would actually come with their objections, so I didn't have to wait till the end of the call. And the other thing is that they didn't feel like I was pushing them into a sale, because I was asking them to come back with a question, right? So on so many levels it works, and it really was the backbone. And at one point when we had to do, anyone been in sales or around long enough, it used to be like direct mail campaigns. right, mail campaigns going out, and then you had to like dial based on those. So I used to actually do that even for normal stuff like business development. There was someone I wanted to go, I'd send them a letter first and tell them in a letter, not email, that I was going to call them in 7 days, and that would give me permission to call. Amazing. Thanks so much, Michelle. I'm going to do two more. I'm going to go down to George and over to Kirsten.
Wow. Yeah, look, it was a great session. I think there was lots of things to be taken away from it. I think one of the big things is just getting really focused and staying in the lane from yesterday. And then also, I really enjoyed well, it's not that you enjoy it, but the reality of the going up the ladder and what's going to happen going down the ladder. And I agree totally. I've been in sales for a long time. It's always my motto is, no sale, no eat. So, and you do start to drop down, and then you've got to start selling up again. And I think that whole thing about being seen consistent has yet rung true again. And but yeah, I'm looking forward to doing the review, our session today, and just take away the notes about how I'm going to actually rejig, I suppose, and get that consistency happening. And one of the big things is I've just got too much stuff. I've just got to be able to pull it down and just do maybe 5 things and just keep doing that rather than trying to think of 25 different things. So yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you. And over to Kirsten to wrap us up.
Thanks very much. Enjoyed the session very much. Got a lot out of it, but probably the last thing that you talked about was after speaking the golden minute. Thank you so much. Is there anything in particular that stood out for you? It's probably something that I don't do. I'll probably say thank you, and that tapped into the stuff we talked about yesterday. And also the top of the ladder, the sustainable impact. I'd not kind of thought about that, and that's actually what I want. That's actually my goal. And I'm not there, but I hadn't kind of crystallised that was actually what I want.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think all of us who are entrepreneurs and expert driven is what we want.
Yep.
Right? Otherwise we do it for someone else.
Exactly.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kirsten. Now, is there anyone who wants to ask a help question before we go? I am aware we're over time. I think Eleanor had one, but I'm also aware that Eleanor's not well. Roger, just a quick question, and then we'll go to Eleanor.
Okay. So my quick question is, and I've done this before, good idea to actually schedule a meeting to talk about the proposal. So you send the proposal with, asking the questions, and then set a meeting, just schedule a meeting for 72 hours.
Yeah, so if I'm going to set a meeting, I'll usually do that when I'm on the sales call. I'll say, look, I'm going to get this proposal up to you. You'll have it in the next 24 hours. Let's set a time for whatever.
Yeah.
Well, actually, because trying to set a meeting out of a document or an email is really difficult. Try and do it when you're in a conversation. And that's a personal preference. So I prefer to ask them to come, I'll call them with their objections, with their questions, not their objections, or you set a meeting, and either works, right? The point is that just making sure you have that next point of contact set.
Yep.
Amazing. Thanks, Roger. Up to Eleanor.
I got out of bed so that I could do the break in that room, so sorry if I sound really funny. It was the question around determining what that front piece is. So you said, we almost scrapped our how to be a great speaker part. If you're newer, how do you go about determining what that front piece should be?
Yeah, so it's a little bit harder when you're newer, but what you should know, it should be around the problem that you solve, right? So the inquiry should lead people into reaching out to you because they have that problem to solve. So if you are not sure yet exactly what the problem is that you're best at solving, then run tests, right? Literally split tests is like the oldest thing in marketing advertising. The other thing is that I would also have conversations, if you're new, have conversations with 15 to 20 people that are your ideal client and just say, hey, I know that you're not someone that I'm going to approach as a client, but you are exactly who I would work with. I'd love to know if we have a coffee and I can just run some ideas past you and see what lands for you, right? Old-fashioned market research works every time. And I saw that Heather McIndoe's on here as well. I approach things with a headhunt approach, right? So make sure those clients are people that you would take on if you want to. Because when you're headhunting as an executive recruiter, you ring the candidate you want and say, hey, look, I know you're really happy, but we're looking for someone just like you. This is what we're looking for. And they'll either give you a great referral or they'll say, why are you not talking to me about that? So think about it that way. Go and talk to your ideal clients with the perspective that they'll either give you valuable information or they'll actually say, hey, I should do that with you, right? But either way, you'll land on that one thing.
Thank you.
Amazing. Okay, guys, we are a few minutes over, so I'm going to wrap it there. I'm looking forward to seeing everyone tomorrow. I'm hoping that you'll all show up for the Scale It session, and there'll be a lot of conversation and a lot of let's talk about what it really takes to scale something for tomorrow's session. Can't wait to see you all then.